Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andy Pryor with Milk and Cookies Total War.
And Oakley High Def, and we're going to be playing a 3 versus 3 online battle. This is going to be a bit of a scenario matchup. So it's going to be taking place in Northern Gaul as Caesar and his legions are pushing into the territory. At this point, the Gaul, or basically a confederation of Gallic and Celtic forces, have come together. So the Nervii, the Boii, and then we also have the Arverni are going to be descending on one legion that's on land. They figure it can be a quick knockout to force Caesar back. However, at sea we have also scrambled our fleet, but the Romans had something in surprise. Recently arrived reinforcements carrying a ballista are going to be turning the tide there, and then once they're done mopping up, or at least attempting to mop up our forces, they will then try and relieve the legion on land.
So let's get into the replay now. Press 3, 2, 1, press play. And the Gallic Navy realizes right away that there's absolutely no hope of a naval engagement win in this part of the battle. So they're quickly going to turn around as the fog clears, realize that they cannot win an engagement, and quickly try to beach their troops as a bunch of the catapults come in and try to do damage to the Navy. The Gallic forces quickly realize, however, that the Legion on land is going to be able to probably be overrun. So if they can quickly take out the Legion, surround them, get them off the field, then when the rest of the Roman Navy decides to beach the rest of their forces, they might kind of be isolated, and the Gallic forces might be able to take the field.
Yeah, everyone right here, all the warriors, they have the scent of blood in their mouths and their noses, and they're going to be rushing out across the plains because, as Indy was saying, it is quite the countdown to try and eliminate that stranded legion before they can get reinforcements at sea. And that battle at sea is not really going to be going our way.
No, it's not. They outnumber the Gallic forces probably 2-1 in the naval aspect side of things. And it's going to be funny here because some of the Gallic forces are going to try to pull all the way back to the beach, activating fast row, just rowing as quickly as they possibly can to get away from the Roman hastati and principes. But a lot of them are not actually going to be able to make it. They're not quite as fast or as adept on sea as the Roman forces. So a lot of them are going to get rammed in the back, get caught and boarded and kind of destroyed by the Roman fleet here, as some of the engagements have already started over on the left side in the naval engagement. Looks like some of the levy freemen are boarding the hastati, which really shouldn't have any hope of winning that battle, to be honest.
Yeah, although some of the Roman vessels have been attacked, one of them is going down, but for the most part you have these catapult and ballista forces coming in, and they have all but forced us to retreat. This is going down. A couple of my ships are attempting to land, but for the most part we've been stopped, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to salvage many, if any, of these forces. Whereas on land, we're now going to be moving into the final approach of this sort of the lost legion, you could say.
Yeah, the Gallic forces are getting really close now, and the engagement they want to take looks like the Arverni and Nervii are going to be leading the charge in the center here, and the Boii are going to quickly try to wrap around the flank here and try to get some hammer and anvils off. Breaking the left flank, I think, will probably be the best engagement for them, and the reason for that is that they really don't have a lot of troops over the left flank. There's a hidden force over in the woods, and they're going to kind of move up to the hill relatively soon here, and that will be a harder part of the Roman legion to take. But over on the left flank of the Romans, it looks like breaking through that should be relatively simple, and of course they do outnumber them, maybe 2-1 on land, so they have definitely have an advantage here in the infantry engagement.
And here comes the main assault down the center. The force in the woods is going to be holding firm, and in the middle, the legionnaires are going to have to stop this initial wave. I can see pillage going, but they're not going to be enough to take out this entire force streaming in here.
Celtic warriors going into the middle of the legionary cohort, probably not the best engagement, but of course there's so many Gallic forces here just kind of piling onto the Roman front line that it's kind of only a matter of time before the Roman line breaks. This is the engagement of Roman infantry once, of course, in the center here. It's just kind of a meat grinder. But again, a lot of these Boii forces are following up the engagement and are going to look to break the left flank, as some of the Nervii forces, the Mighty Horse, are engaging the legionary cavalry over on the left side, and a lot of peltas and javelins are being thrown on that side, and it looks like they're going to just be trying to wrap around the flank here pretty soon.
The Roman horse is holding the hill pretty well. They're preventing that flank from falling. They're charging down and pretty much routing some of our lighter units going here, and it looks like they're going to try and pull through and land some hammer and anvils. That's going to be a charge led by the Roman general with some more legionary cavalry, and look at this nice hammer and anvil they're going to be doing to relieve these forces in the woods. But this is just going to be a small part of the battle. You can even see in the distance the fleets are still going at it. Sorry we're not able to cover too much of that. I think I'll fly over that real briefly. For the most part, we've been forced to shore up our boats on land. The rest of our forces have been taken out, and Romans are going to start to land their vessels and try and engage our flank on the land battle. Meanwhile, the Roman forces on land are going to try and hold out, but it is going to be a very desperate fight.
Yeah, and it looks like actually only a couple of Boii forces were able to make it out of that Roman engagement. They took that naval engagement so easily. It was really not a problem for them at all. Only a couple slingers are still left alive. All the other boats have either beached or been destroyed by the Roman Navy. So while that's happening, the infantry engagement is actually going pretty well. A lot of these legionary cohorts are just getting completely surrounded as the Boii forces make it around the flank. This legionary cohort over on the left side has been completely surrounded and should be able to get cut down relatively easily. And then some other sword followers have made it around behind some more legionary cohort, going to throw their javelins before they get a devastating rear charge off. And this is kind of the beginning of the end for at least the middle of the Roman line, because each of these units is kind of getting broken down piecemeal, completely surrounded and destroyed, and they're just going to keep crumbling, crashing up this line and continuing to rout more and more units until there's not much of the main line left for Rome.
Yeah, we seem to have committed a huge bulk of our forces. You can see all multicolored flags, the Confederation pouring their forces in, each trying to, take home maybe a souvenir of this battle back to his family and tell the tale of how he took out Caesar's legions. So they're all coming in here to get literal pieces of the Romans to take back home. Meanwhile, the hill, however, seems to be going the Roman way. They're able to hold that up, and the concentration of cavalry led by the Roman general, perhaps a legatus at this point, is helping take this side, and he's going to secure a fallback point for the Roman force as the rest of the fleet is going to be disembarking and seeking to, reinforce this side of the battle.
This is about to be an absolutely devastating rear charge off. The Boii have completely broken the left flank now with a couple of Nervii fierce swords as well, and the entire force is basically streaming in behind, mass wavering on the Roman line, and they are well and truly surrounded at this point. Osworn in the back legionary cohort, not going to be able to survive for very long, this Roman line. And yeah, the hammer and anvil's coming now, and it's kind of only a matter of time at this point. Most of the Roman line is going to break. With that said, though, there is going to be this contingent in the woods here that's going to pull back to the hill relatively soon and make a last stand there. Just try to survive until the rest of the Roman fleet can come reinforce. The problem is that on the boats, the Principes and the Stati that are coming to reinforce are not as numerous as the men on land, so it's going to be a really kind of an uphill battle for Rome at this point, trying to relieve the besieged Romans on that hill, because they simply don't have the manpower at this point. The main Roman line was kind of just completely taken over by the barbarian force.
And then watching the shoreline, they seem to be disembarking everything, but we do have a couple slingers who were pulled off from the main fight to just, ping these guys as they're moving forward, not allow them to engage on this fight unmolested. But yeah, it looks like a complete collapse of the Roman center. We can just go over and look at the lines of battle. They were mostly absolutely destroyed, almost nothing left over. And now, look at all those abilities starting to pop. The Romans are going to be melting.
Yeah, Roman main line is completely collapsed now, and the few remaining survivors looks like 4 legionary cohorts or 4 legionnaires and some Balearic slingers and auxiliary Syrian archers are going to make it to the top of the hill, and up near the edge of this battlefield they're going to make their last stand. And barbarians really don't have any pressure to end this that quickly. They can take their time, kind of surround the remaining Roman troops and well and truly cut them off from the rest of their support, which really they're not. The rest of the Roman navy is not really going to be able to support too well, because it looks like some Osworn and some of the sword followers, including some Nervii fierce swords, are going to pull off from that engagement, realizing that the besieged Roman forces don't have any hope on that hill there, and they're going to quickly meet the rest of these forces out on the open plain, make sure that they can't come to reinforce the Romans on the hill.
Speaking of the Romans on the hill, they are getting some nice shot with these auxiliary Syrian archers picking off the people at the bottom of the hill. Romans are reforming to, guard their flanks, and from this vantage point, it's going to be a good place to get some shots off. But we are infiltrating all sides of the forest. You can see our troops sneaking around on all edges, and it's a matter of time, as Indy said, before we can get around and try and surround these forces. The engagement is still going on, as the Roman forces are now disembarking. They're mopped the remainder of our guys at the beaches, and then they're going to be trying to make their way over to the main engagement. A couple of the ballistic crews, for example, have pushed on through, trying to get our guys in the back, but we just, had some remaining barbarians to clean these guys up. No problem.
Looks like some of the naked swords are going to engage in the middle there, which It's going to be a hard fight for them beating Legionnaires 1v1, especially with all these javelins coming in from behind. Probably some friendly fire there. But the Levy Freemen and some Oathsworn and Fierce Swords are going to try to again break the left flank of these besieged Roman forces and come in from behind and start getting some pila throw into the back line of this engagement. And there's really no hope for the Romans on this hill. They're just completely surrounded at this point, completely cut off from the rest of their forces. And actually looks like the Oathsworn and Fierce Swords on the open plain have engaged some Hastati and some of the Roman onager forces as well. And that, of course, that wasn't going to be a hard fight for them as they rout off the field. So a lot of the artillery ships actually still have ammo, and as soon as the Oathsworn and some of the other Boii and Nervii forces get closer to the shore, they'll start shooting into them. But not a lot left on the field for Rome at this point, and the balance bar has already shifted very much in the favor of the Nervii, Arverni, and Boii alliance.
That's correct. And the Legatus, who so bravely led his forces before, is now just kind of left to watch his guys mopped up. Not much he can do. Some of the cavalry he sent forward to try and engage, stem the tide of this slaughter. But for the most part, there's just too many numbers. And you can even see some of the barbarians are leaving this fight, considering it already over, and they're heading over to meet the Romans at the beach.
Looks like finally the Levy Freemen over on the left flank, and some of the Oathsworn are finally getting around behind to get a devastating rear charge off and complete the encirclement and rout of the Roman forces. And at that point, there will be really no hope for the Romans. It'll just be a bunch of Roman men trying to get back onto the beach and trying to fight. But Triarii, Principes, and Hastati, because Legionnaires actually can't get equipped or get put on Roman ships in this game, they're not going to have any forces that can really deal with Oathsworn or sword followers, to be honest.
As you were saying, it looks like the catapults still do have some ammo, and I think they're going to start to get some shots off. So the fleet is still going to continue to play a role, I believe, at this point. Looks like they're loading up. There you go. Couple of the catapults getting some shots off, and they're going to be landing right into the Oathsworn. So they are going to be trying their best to hold this beachhead. Perhaps try and reboard their ships, but it looks like they're going to be trying to make this stand right here. Everything has been pulled up on the beach. Even the artillery crews at this point are just going to get up close to the beach, and everything is going to be poured into this last fight, trying to hold ground, hold firm.
Oathsworn engaged with Triarii, who are now in square formation just to survive that fight for as long as possible. Should be able to tank that engagement for a while, but Oathsworn with Headhunt and Battle Rhythm activated shouldn't have too much of a problem cutting through the Triarii. It might take a little bit, but definitely an engagement they'll win.
Yeah, I should note as well, the artillery fire is rather indiscriminate at this point. It's kind of just blowing up everything in this blob, almost doing as much damage to the Triarii who are trying to stay alive as they are to the Oathsworn.
Looks like some of the Celtic warriors for Nervii have made it into the main line of Principes that have beached recently, and some of the sword followers as well. And what's going to follow is perhaps the Barbarian Alliance got a little bit too hasty here engaging this line because they had many more forces that could have reinforced, but I guess desperate for glory, they decided to charge the main line and see who could bring home the most trophies. But it looks like they're going to engage, and it's honestly a fight that they can win, but they'll certainly lose some men for it. As a bunch of the levies finally commit to melee, they're out of ammo. Oathsworn, again, and sword followers should cut through them very, very easily.
And the remaining Romans are still up on the hill. They're going to be in a fierce fight with the Boii, the Nervii, and the Arverni forces. Legionnaires still at decent strength, but it's only going to be a matter of time. This is all that's left. The rest of our forces, like India was saying, are going to be peeled off to deal with the forces at coming aboard from the ocean battle. But it seems like we are doing so not quite in the most organized way, and the Romans are going to take full advantage of that.
At this point, though, the balance bar has shifted so far in their favor, there's absolutely no hope for the Romans to win this battle. And it's only going to be the last stand of a couple Principes and the Triarii general. As a bunch of javelins come in, destroying these Principes from the flank, a bunch of the swords will come in as well. And it looks like a lot of the line is breaking at this point, and there's really no hope for the remaining Roman forces.
And maybe go ahead and zoom in on some of these naked warriors getting a piece of this action. And like you said, yeah, even some of the javelin men coming in from the back. This is all yep, there you go. They're gonna start cracking, I think. Yeah, they're gonna rout pretty soon. So piecemeal, just pulling these guys apart. The Romans are trying to pull back out of this fight, I believe, to regroup with more of their forces closer to the sea, and the catapult crew is kind of relegated to just watching this slaughter from afar.
But it looks like this entire Roman legion is going to be utterly destroyed, and the Gallic forces will take the field and, at least for now, protect their homeland.
Yep, so that's going to be the conclusion of the battle. To a certain degree, still some Romans left, but pretty much it's going to be game over at this point. So a well-fought battle on all sides, and we really enjoyed doing these scenario-esque battles. They end up being extremely fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
Yeah, that was actually the first time I've ever done a scenario battle where we actually came up with like a theme beforehand. I mean, I guess we did the Athens one before, but I thought this one was really, really enjoyable. Unfortunately, actually, Oakley... well, actually, do you want to share what happened to you yesterday?
Yeah, we were in the middle of this battle, and I actually got desynced, so I told them to fight on without me. So my general kind of, I guess you could say, he died, and the rest of my force kept fighting the good fight. So I was mostly able to rewatch this battle and witness what I was not able to see in the battle itself through the use of this replay.
Yeah,
but it definitely went very well. Very fun battle.
Yeah, it was basically just AI controlling for him. But it was weird because it happened twice. I don't know. I've never heard of anyone desyncing from combined naval land battles before, but this was actually the first combined naval land battle that I've ever done before, and I thought it was a lot of fun to play.
Tons of fun.
Yeah.
And we'll be sure to bring you guys more of these. So in the comments below, make sure to let us know what types of battles you'd like to see in the future. We're all ears. So thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time.
Yeah, see you guys.